Hitsville Studios, Detroit, November 1973. Marvin Gaye had been awake since 5 a.m. When Anna asked him why, he told her he had an early session. Not a lie exactly, just not the full truth. She had looked at him with that mixture of suspicion and exhaustion that had become her default expression, then rolled over. He had changed clothes 3 times. Navy turtleneck, brown, back to navy. By the time he arrived at the studio, his shirt was damp with sweat despite the November cold. The control room smelled like cigarette smoke and old coffee. He sat in the producer's chair, fingers tracing the faders without purpose. He had been there since noon. It was now 2:47 p.m. The door opened. "Marvin, she's here." He didn't move. The engineer, a kid named Tommy who had worked at Motown for 6 months, shifted his weight from one foot to the other, waiting for a response that didn't come. "Mr. Gaye? I heard you." Marvin stood slowly, smoothing the front of his shirt, a navy turtleneck. He had changed clothes 3 times that morning before settling on this one. Not that it mattered, not that she would notice. The hallway outside the control room stretched longer than he remembered. His footsteps echoed against the linoleum. Through the small window in the studio door, he could see movement. Someone was setting up microphones. Someone else was adjusting the lighting. And then he saw her. Jane Fonda stood in the center of the live room, reading from a script, her lips moving silently as she rehearsed. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She looked exactly like the photographs he had been staring at for the past 3 months, and nothing like them at all. Marvin pushed open the door. She looked up, smiled. The smile hit him the same way it had 3 months ago at a Beverly Hills fundraiser. A crowded room, too many people. He had been near the bar when someone touched his arm. "Marvin Gaye," she had extended her hand. "I'm Jane. I just wanted to tell you how much your music means to me." They had talked for maybe 10 minutes. She had asked about what's going on, about whether he believed music could actually change things. When someone pulled her away, she had looked back and mouthed, "Thank you." He had thought about that conversation for weeks. Now here she was again. "Oh, Marvin, thank you so much for helping with this." He extended his hand. She took it. Her grip was firm, confident. His palm was damp. "Of course," he managed. "Happy to help. I know you're busy. I really appreciate you taking the time." She gestured toward the microphone. "They said you'd make sure I don't sound terrible." "You won't. You haven't heard me yet." She laughed, a genuine laugh, not performative. Marvin felt something tighten in his chest. The project was simple. A public service announcement for a children's literacy program. 30 seconds. Maybe a minute if they included music. Jane had volunteered her time. Motown had offered the studio. Marvin had been asked to supervise because he understood how to make voices sound warm, human, real. What they didn't tell him was that he would be sitting 3 feet away from her, separated only by a pane of glass, watching her speak words he would never hear directed at him. She stepped up to the microphone, adjusted the height, looked at Tommy through the glass and gave a thumbs up. Marvin took his seat in the control room. The leather chair exhaled beneath him. He stared at the console, at the rows of knobs and switches that suddenly meant nothing. "Ready when you are, Miss Fonda," Tommy said into the talkback mic. Jane nodded, took a breath. "Every child deserves a chance to discover the magic of reading." Her voice filled the control room. Marvin's hand moved toward the faders, then stopped. He didn't need to adjust anything. Her voice was already perfect. Clear, warm, earnest without being saccharine. He watched her through the glass, the way she held the script, the slight furrow in her brow when she concentrated, the way her left hand gestured slightly as she spoke, even though no one would see it. He had produced hundreds of vocalists. He knew how to listen technically, how to hear a sharp breath or a flat note. But watching Jane, he wasn't hearing any of that. He was hearing sincerity that couldn't be manufactured. And he was thinking about things he had no business thinking about. "Marvin," he blinked. Tommy was looking at him. "Should we adjust the reverb?" "What?" "The reverb. Too much?" Marvin looked at the console. He had no idea what the reverb was set to. He had no idea what anything was set to. "It's fine," he said. Tommy gave him a strange look but said nothing. Jane read through the script again and again. Each time, Marvin told himself he was listening for technical issues, breath sounds, plosives, proximity effect, all the things a producer was supposed to notice, but all he heard was her voice. All he saw was the way the studio lights caught her profile. After the fourth take, Jane removed her headphones and looked through the glass. "How was that?" Marvin leaned forward, pressed the talkback button. "Perfect," he said. It's perfect," she smiled. "I always feel so awkward reading from a script, like I'm trying too hard." "You're not. You're being kind. I'm being honest." There was a pause. Jane glanced at her watch. "Can we take 5? I need some water." "Of course." She stepped out of the live room and into the control room. The space, which had felt spacious moments before, suddenly contracted. She was close enough that Marvin could smell her perfume. Something light. Citrus and something else he couldn't name. She sat in the chair next to him, unscrewed the cap on a water bottle, and took a long drink. "This studio is incredible," she said, looking around. "So much history in these walls." "Yeah." "Is it true Smokey Robinson recorded Tears of a Clown in this room?" "Next door. Studio A." "God, that song." She shook her head. "I must have played it 100 times when it came out." Marvin wanted to tell her that he had been in the room when Smokey recorded it. He wanted to tell her about the late nights, the arguments over arrangements, the moment when Smokey finally nailed the vocal, and everyone knew it was magic. He wanted to tell her a lot of things. Instead, he said, "It's a good song." Jane turned to face him. "I have to tell you, what's going on changed my life." Marvin felt the words land differently than when others said them. This mattered in a way he couldn't explain. "I was at a protest in '71, she continued. "In D.C., someone had a portable radio. Your song came on and everything just stopped. People stopped chanting. We all stood there listening. When it ended, no one said anything for a full minute. It was like you'd said everything we'd been trying to say, but couldn't find the words for." She looked at him directly. "That's what great art does. It gives people language for what they're feeling." "You did that." Marvin's throat felt tight. He wanted to tell her he had written that album in pieces, late at night, when he couldn't sleep. That Tammy's death had broken something in him, and that album was him trying to make sense of it. He wanted to tell her that every word she was saying meant more than she could know. Instead, he said, "Thank you." She smiled again. "No, thank you." Before he could respond, her assistant appeared in the doorway. "Jane, they need you back at the house in an hour. Traffic's going to be bad." Jane glanced at her watch again, then looked at Marvin. "Can we finish this?" "Of course." She stood, stretched, and headed back into the live room. Marvin watched her go, watched her put the headphones back on, watched her settle in front of the microphone like she belonged there. Tommy leaned over. "She's really nice." "Yeah." "You okay, Mr. Gaye? You seem—" "I'm fine." They recorded 3 more takes. Each one was flawless. Each one made Marvin feel further away from himself. When they finished, Jane came back into the control room. "That's it?" "That's it," Marvin said. "Easy." She gathered her things, slipped on her jacket. "You're a genius, Marvin. Anna is so lucky." The words hit him like a fist. Anna, his wife, the woman he had married a decade ago, the woman who knew him better than anyone, the woman he was betraying right now in this moment, simply by sitting in this room and wishing things were different. "Yeah," he said quietly. Jane moved toward the door, then paused. "If you ever need anything, you know where to find me. I mean that." "Thank you." She left. Her footsteps echoed down the hallway. A door opened and closed, and then she was gone. Marvin sat in the control room, staring at the empty studio through the glass. The microphone stood where she had left it, her water bottle on the stool. Everything looked the same, except it wasn't. He could still smell her perfume, still hear her voice saying Anna's name. The room felt emptier than it ever had. Tommy started breaking down the equipment. "You want me to comp the takes?" "No, use take 4. "You sure?" Take 6 was cleaner. Take 4. Marvin knew Tommy was right, but take 4 was the one where Jane had smiled halfway through. That smile had come through in her voice. Tommy shrugged and made a note. Marvin stayed in his chair, stayed until Tommy finished packing up the microphones. Stayed until the kids said goodnight and left him alone in the dim control room with nothing but the hum of the ventilation system and the weight of everything unsaid. He looked at the clock. 6:23 p.m. He should go home. Anna would be making dinner. They would eat in silence, as they had been doing for months now. She would ask him about his day. He would tell her it was fine. She would know he was lying. He would know that she knew. He didn't go home. Instead, he walked into the live room, stood where Jane had stood, adjusted the microphone to his height, put on the headphones that still smelled faintly of her perfume. He closed his eyes and then he started to sing. You are everything, and everything is you. The melody came from somewhere deep, someplace he didn't recognize. The words followed, not planned, not written, just there, waiting to be spoken. How can I forget you when you're always on my mind? He sang it through once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th time, his voice cracked. He stopped, removed the headphones, stood in the silent studio, alone. The phone on the wall rang. He ignored it. It rang again. He picked up. Marvin, it's Anna. Are you coming home? Soon. You said that 2 hours ago. I know. He could hear her breathing, could picture her in the kitchen, phone cord wrapped around her finger. Was she there today? Anna's voice was quiet, not angry, just tired. Marvin's grip tightened on the receiver. Who? You know who? He couldn't lie to her directly. Anna had always been able to see through him. Marvin, I'm not stupid. I never said you were. Then don't treat me like I am. A pause. He could hear gun smoke on the television. Nothing's going on, he said. You're lying to both of us. And I'm tired, Marvin. He closed his eyes. I'm coming home, he said. Are you? Yes. He hung up before she could respond. But he didn't leave. Not yet. He sat at the piano in the corner. The same piano where he had written parts of What's Going On, where he had worked out harmonies with Tammy. He played a simple progression, C major, a minor, F major, G major, the saddest progression in music. And he thought about Jane, about the way she had looked at him, the way she had said Anna's name. Anna is so lucky. He thought about what Jane didn't know, that his marriage was dissolving in slow motion, that he and Anna barely spoke except to wound each other, that the woman everyone assumed was lucky was trapped in a union held together only by contracts and public image. He thought about what he would never tell Jane, that he had been thinking about her for months, that he had imagined scenarios where things were different, where he wasn't married to Berry Gordy's sister, where she wasn't someone who existed in a world he could observe but never enter. He played the chords again. You are everything. He would finish the song. He already knew that. He would write it down, refine it, produce it. He would give it to someone else to sing, the Stylistics maybe, Diana Ross, someone whose voice could sell it without anyone asking questions. And Jane would never know. She would hear it on the radio maybe, might even like it, might play it at another protest, or in her car, or in her living room with friends. She would never know that every word was about her, that the man who wrote it had spent an entire afternoon 3 feet away from her, saying nothing, feeling everything. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. Marvin finally stood, turned off the lights, locked the studio door behind him. He drove home in silence. No radio, no music. Anna was asleep when he arrived, or pretending to be. He stood in the doorway of their bedroom, watching her breathe in the darkness. Then he went to his office, closed the door, sat at his desk with a blank piece of paper, and he wrote. He wrote until the sun came up, until his hand cramped, until the song was finished. He folded the paper, put it in a drawer, locked it. Weeks later, when he gave the song to the Stylistics, they asked him what inspired it. Just something I was working on, he told them. They recorded it. It became a hit. #1 R&B, top 5 pop. Jane Fonda heard it in 1974 while driving to a rally. She was alone in the car for once. The song came on. You are everything, and everything is you. She turned up the volume. Beautiful song, she said to no one. When it ended, the DJ mentioned the Stylistics. She forgot about it by the time the rally started. She never knew. And Marvin never told her. Not when he saw her at another fundraiser 2 years later. Not when they exchanged pleasantries. Not when she disappeared into a crowd. Years later, after the divorce from Anna, after the exile, after the paranoia and drugs, someone asked Marvin about the song in an interview. He looked at the gray London sky, thought about a November afternoon, a woman in a white blouse, a voice through glass. "It's about someone I knew," he said quietly. "Someone special?" A long pause. "Someone I never really knew at all," he said. "But yeah, special." The interviewer moved on, and Marvin sat there still hearing that voice, still seeing her through the glass, still 3 feet away. Always. The studio in Detroit closed years later. The piano moved to a museum, but somewhere in the Motown archives there's a tape. Take 4 of Jane Fonda reading about children's literacy. That slight smile coming through halfway. And if you listen carefully, you can almost hear someone breathing on the other side of the glass. Listening, saying nothing, feeling everything.